Yellow.
All right, so we are now live. Okay, so what is your favorite color?
I've always liked light blue, like a sky blue.
All right, and then favorite movie, Hurff.
Oh man, that's a tough one. Dude, you know what really always is a good one for me is Finding Nemo. I know that sounds cheesy, but it's a good classic.
Yeah, Finding Nemo, you can't go wrong. What did you think about Finding Dory?
I love Dory. She was a good character in Finding Nemo, but I don't think they played her as good as they could have. In Finding Dory,
The
it
writing
didn't
maybe
feel as authentic.
was just a little weak, maybe. All right, so go ahead and introduce yourself and what you do. Kind of shout out, I guess, our music projects.
Yeah, my name's Matthew Hurff. I'm 26 years old. Um, I'm currently looking for uh, a good job that I've got with a degree in communications. I enjoy playing music on my free time. It's always been a good an outlet for me. I feel like having that outlet created me to be a different person than I thought I'd ever been, and I appreciate the person I've became from the experience and the creations I've created through the music. And honestly, it all kicked off when I first met you, Jeff. I was in band in high school and played a little bit of piano when I was younger. You came up with this goofy shed that was probably smaller than a closet to some people, and we threw every keyboard, every beat pad that we could get our hands on, and it was just this organic experience of just free jamming that led me into the inspiration of the musician I am today. And I think through that journey, it, it was a trippy journey. I could definitely agree on that because we play some pretty psychedelic stuff.
Psychedelic
But
all the way, for sure.
oh, for sure. But it was still just two young kids wanting to create something not only for themselves but just for other people to enjoy. And I remember some of the times we'd go out and hang out with our friends. We'd always bring the music along. Whether it
Yeah,
was a keyboard or just a maraca. We'd all be sitting
yeah,
around and we'd bring that vibe. And I think that energy of just being able to you know have the experience to share just a good time with a bunch of people from something that we're making was just it was powerful. And I knew we were kind of good at it, whether or not it sounded good at that time. I just knew it was a talent we both had. And
I
to kind of
remember this one particular time where we were recording tapes, and then we happened to bring out like Jaden, and then like later on we got in the use of like having him on guitar, and then he didn't make it out one time, and we brought out Ryan Mathis, and we were just like, all right, yeah, we're gonna try and crank out some jams real quick and show you the vibe. And he was just like,
yeah.
all right, yeah.
Yeah, and some of the people that we would play with didn't even think they were musicians. Like you
Yeah,
mentioned,
for
Jaden,
sure.
when he first picked up a guitar, he was interested in it, but he's just, I don't know how to play, and I'm pretty sure to this day he's still sticking with it, and I'm pretty sure he's a hell of a guitarist,
Hell
man.
of a guitarist now. He kind of
And
pulled the whole like I'm gonna just lock myself up in a closet and learn every single thing about guitar. I feel.
Yeah, and I think it's just because we were able to like pick up the instruments and do it, and the only reason we did it was just because we practiced a lot. And it just goes to show that anyone is capable of making music. I think we all have a little rhythm to our soul. So it's not a trick of the trade. I think anyone can really be a musician, and I love to be able to call myself a musician. And also it's kind of like a double-edged sword because a lot of the times with musicianship, you surround yourself in some situations that I feel like aren't typically normal. uh, and that's just because the influence of music's so powerful.
Until it becomes
And
normalized.
yeah, exactly. And I think with society, with Motown, it was a super influential genre of music. It changed generations, and now with all the shit that's going on in the world, we need more generational influence more than ever. And I gotta love the Supremes. I grew up on some Bill Withers, some Otis Redding, so and that's soul music. Those musicians blow my mind because they don't have the stuff we have nowadays. I mean, you can make a whole symphony that would take 72 people, run it by yourself on just one keyboard and a software program. I mean that's insane to think about, but you lose like the quality of like
Like
real
the old Ray
authentic organic
Charles and
music.
stuff. I was listening to a little bit of old like ragtime, a little bit of like jazz, like Ray Charles today, and I was just like, yeah, like he really didn't care if his vocals sounded bad on that one part, but just because like he knew like the song had that energy, he could go out and play it live, and like also had that character, like in the charisma, you know what I mean, to kind of keep that vibe going. There's some stuff I feel like even in our songs, whenever we knew it might like sound a little bad, other people might get the vibe. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Yeah,
yeah.
and I can just definitely recall like us working from like straight up off of the keyboards and just trying to like oh, we can make a song like right off this keyboard, right off of like what the sounds like they provide. And that mentality, I feel like, is a little bit lost or also massaged in with like today's music. Like today, they kind of want to like, yeah, that was we have keyboards and this and that and this and that, but also when it comes down to the demo, maybe that person just recorded on their guitar or just like a little bit of stuff on their Casio and was just like, I'm gonna develop this with the
But we
producer.
found sounds that no one would ever find.
Yeah, or
They
and
were
develop
sounds that were
sounds
discovered for the first time
for the
ever.
first time. Yes, I definitely agree on that one. All right, so favorite instrument. I know we kind of went into this one in the last interview. I'm gonna tie that in.
My favorite instrument. Yeah, I would honestly. It's kind of because I can't play it. I've always loved the guitar. Um, I play the hell out of a piano. My mom pushed me through lessons when I was real young, so it just was a thing that was like a muscle memory to me, and I practiced it. So because I'm more confident on the piano, I could say I'm that would be my favorite, but it's really not. I've always loved the guitar. I think there's sounds on a guitar that people don't really find, and everyone's just kind of generic, like a classic rock or like just like a metal sound. But then you listen to people that like a ukulele. Like I think that's one of my favorite guitars because it's just such a happy sound. But and it's so small, but you can come up with such a dynamic. Um, and yeah, I just it always influences me because everyone plays a guitar. You don't have a lot of piano players or trumpet players or flute players or clarinet players. But I think because it's such an influential instrument, it's one of my favorites because I want everyone to play music. I want everyone to be able to say I can play guitar or I can play piano. I think the whole world should be a big band together if we could.
I want to bring up kind of like the acid explosion, the 60s era. Like we had these kind of iconic bands that were bringing, a lot of heat to the scene and were
Hmm.
very vocal about kind of their rights, where they belong in society, what they think maybe society should do or change.
Hmm.
And do you ever feel like whenever you're making music that you're trying to also kind of incorporate a message?
Yeah, and I think that message gets deeper the more I stick with music because you just want to play like the catchy generic stuff that you think everyone likes, but when you really get down to it and say you're going through something that's hard, like I've noticed a lot of my emotions come out through my music, and there's a lot of crap that's going on in this world and a lot of stuff that gets pushed underneath the rug, And I think to be able to give a message to people that, gives them more appreciation to like just the truth, that those true emotions that you're feeling, you can say it in a song where you wouldn't be able to say it to anybody else without them looking at you like you got issues or you're crazy or something. But then you have all these other people that are listening to that same song and are going through all these different experiences, but they can relate to it. And that, being able to relate to something, especially when you need a little strength in life, I think it's really helpful for anyone. And you haven't asked me one question. You haven't asked me my favorite band.
All right, so we'll get to favorite band. I kind of want to throw out some of these deeper topics. Like, did you happen to check out the first episode of the new season of South Park, where they're kind of talking about like Kanye West talking Jewish, have you kind of taken the dive on that yet, or not?
I mean, look, I think a lot of those satire comedies that we
Yeah,
see, the writers know. I don't want to say they're like giant conspiracists, but the way they predict things, and the way you mentioned, like Kanye's like fruition, like
yes,
in that in that South Park episode, and then where he's at now. I mean, I love Kanye
exactly.
West for the longest time, and and then just seeing the
He's
way
so famous, and also like was just like the right kind of person to tap into, and almost and everybody knows him, like Michael Jackson almost. Like, so it's like making a remark about him was going to be more universal, and also kind of able to tag in, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's funny if you dive in. My favorite album from him was the Dark Fantasy, and my one of my like last classes in my bachelor's degree, I had to write like an artifact paper, kind of over anything, and I picked Dark Fantasy. And I've never really got into the lyrics. I just watched like the cool movie
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
video
He
that
made
he
a really
has,
great
and I
movie for
jammed
that.
out to the songs.
And like that whole like visual projection, the whole short film for like that whole like album that he put out, that was one of the most prolific things I can think of at that time, where everybody was kind of tuning in on like what that artist was
Dude,
putting
it
out
won album
there.
of the decade.
And
You know,
I mean, even to this day, like it's one of those albums where you can go back to and like, yeah, that track, that track, that track. I remember getting it on vinyl on honestly like immediately when it came out, and was just like, I can't wait to hear how this spins and like what this like inside looks like, what he did to the vinyl. Did you have like any memories of like whenever you first got like a band where you were excited to like look at like what the insides were? When it came to like their physical copy.
uh, so I have a friend, Sawyer. He's a drummer. He's a record collector, and he he got the Gorillas. It's the you get it on an iPad. I can't think of the name right now.
Yeah, that record is really solid.
Well, he
It's
got
like
that thing
three
on
three
vinyl,
records
and he
ago,
was
4 records ago now at this point.
oh yeah, I'm sure that thing's pretty penny. But he wasn't, he wasn't like a big collector at that time. Like he only had like a few albums, and it was like his, I think one of his like first albums in the collection that he started. And dude, I remember just going through all the pictures and just like looking at it and just being like mesmerized because it was like a cartoon. I'm like, this is just one person, like.
Yeah. All right, yeah, like a really, really big thing. I feel like Fiction and Koala, Spirit Navigators, like stuff has happened between us. Even working with Gabe, Kate, and Steven, when we came together, we somehow able to morph that into one identity.
Yeah,
And in
like
today's
a big
music,
unit.
yeah, like one big nasty unit. And I think about this like we have these bands today that are fronted by the bands where it becomes like, oh, that was just like the singer songwriter, and like this is just like the following band. One is I bring up like Nick Jonas for instance. Like if Nick Jonas does a song today, It's like, is that backed up by the Jonas Brothers? Is that backed up by some random
Yeah.
like
And
musicians?
those are
Is
your
that
own
like the
brothers, man. How are you
yeah,
gonna do that
like
to your own brothers?
is that the Heartbreakers in that band, or they all get let go now? It's like whenever you kind of find songs that like create like one unity thing, you kind of give a more perspective and like dive into, because you're trying to find out like how all these people came together to like have
Oh yeah.
this one cohesive thing in a way
Well,
too
and if
that
you
worked
find
for them.
success like that, that like cohesiveness, like that one
Yeah,
hit wonder,
yeah, it
I feel like
is.
in success, man, like you can be selfish, you can be a lone wolf, you know, you can be your own person, but if you work a good team and you know you build together as a team, it's a lot stronger of of a product. Like the product that you're
Yeah,
creating is going to be
and
so much better.
I hate to bring this up and cut you off on this one, but like Ariel Pink is another one. I want to say like he worked with so many great artists, great bands, great collaborators, but whenever it came out to the release, you know, everybody known it for Ariel Pink's song without kind of giving it the background of like, oh, the haunted graffiti was like a part of this, or you know what I mean? Like it gets tied to that one artist just because you know they like I don't know worked with all those people to get that stuff out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And you know some of the songs that you hear like from bands, you just know one song, you know, and then you don't get into like the rest of their music. And I feel like when you're listening to that one song from that artist, you should give the whole album a chance because you could be
And
missing
that's
out
the
on
whole
something
point.
even better.
That's like the whole point of playlisting. I feel is like you're shouting out other people. Like you should, if you don't know about this band, you should give that record a listen to, or not. If you're not going to give that record a listen to, the other one or the newest one or the latest. You know.
Yeah.
There's some bands out there. I feel like even whenever they come out that are like older and they come out with new stuff, I'm like, that's a really good idea about rebranding. Like, I want to bring up like Limp Bizkit for a second, just because like a lot of people know Limp Bizkit for Limp Bizkit and a track, but maybe not like ever give their discography or their songs a listen to actually like understand like, okay, maybe this guy really didn't give a shit. Maybe he really was like trying to on the ride and put stuff up together and like form an army or whatever. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, man.
There's just some bands where I guess even like Sugar Ray, we know Sugar Ray for the hits, but did you go back and listen to their album or you know?
Yeah. And those messages, you know, how you're like, you put messages in your music, like, yeah. And I think sometimes messages, there's so many out there and they're just kind of undiscovered with that playlist problem. And hopefully, you know, the people that actually give it a chance find, you know, find the messages for the other people to see for sure, dude. Like one of my biggest, like, I guess the question for my favorite band I'll ask myself, Pink Floyd is like one of my favorite bands,
Yeah.
hands down. And you know, one of my favorite songs in high school was the like, hey, teachers, leave those kids alone. And it's just like that message, like, you know what I mean? Like, trust me, I think education's great. Do I think the way the United States public school system works is great? No. And it was just like that message at that time because, like, you know, I felt that. I was a high schooler and I was just in the car after school, like, you know, fuck the principal and fuck my teachers. I mean, yeah, my principal wasn't a great, uh, you know, let's not get into that topic. Anyways, you know, and I think that's the message behind everything. And
No, hold up. I feel like it is fair to call out our teacher Jeffrey Fisher, a pedophile weirdo creep that we all knew was banging students. We all knew the rumors. We all had our own speculations. We all seen stuff that was just like questionable. I remember whenever I graduated, I didn't shake that nigga's hand because I did not respect him.
I remember that, dude. Like everyone, you know, you had the whole school like just yeah shakes the hand. You just walked right by him, and he just didn't even know how. He didn't know even what you.
He didn't
It
think
was
that I should have
hilarious.
been graduating to begin with, and I was just like, yeah,
Oh
fuck
yeah,
this guy.
It's because he was trying to put the ones that were putting the truth out on the map. Yeah.
We really we
Look.
I want to say even before that whole shit came out, that shit came out years later. Whenever we were in high school, we were like, Jeff Fisher's banging students. Look at him. He's on Twitter messaging 16-year-olds, and this guy's like, bro,
Oh
like
yeah,
we knew the
and it's
signs. We
just
knew
like
what was wrong.
look, right now I'm in a place in my life where I'm trying to put good karma in. So I'm going to say, not my monkey, not my zoo, but the truth is the truth.
The truth is the truth on that one.
Here's a funny story to tell you, I guess, since the topic's out there. My sister was a senior, I think, in high school, or a junior, and she was a cheerleader. And I lived kind of close to the football field after I graduated. He was still principal, but this was like slightly before the scandal was released to the public. And I walked up to him, and I'm not going to lie, my mom was pretty schnockered. And we're walking into a high school football game, and my mom can barely stand, and I could give two shits. I'm just there to freaking get a nacho and cheese and support my sister while she's cheerleading.
That's the vibe of
And
football games.
I see Jeffrey, and he comes up to me, and I'm kind of like trying to, make sure he doesn't see my mom too much. And I walk up to him, and I'm like, hey, what's up, man? And dude, this guy looked like he was manic. And he tells me the story, and my mom's standing next to me, and she's listening to this. And I was saying how I was in college, and he's like, oh yeah, when I was in college, it was the first week in my dorm room. I was going up the steps in my dorm apartment, and I saw these two kids having sex on the stairwell. Now get this: this is a principal talking to me in a public area at a football game, and all I can hear him say over and over and over in a manic position is sex in college, sex. And I'm like, okay, Jeff, nice to see you. And I walk away. And literally, like slightly after that, he gets, announced about some of the shit he's been into. And I'm like, no wonder you were so manic, bro. But like the fact that he was just going over sex like so much in this weird manic story. It doesn't. Isn't it just weird? You know what I mean? Like you could tell something was up.
I've had so many weird interactions with him myself too, and like just from getting in trouble at the high school, from smoking weed in the high school, from doing drugs in the high school, rumors about me just getting caught at the office. Like every single time, I was just like, dude, my dad knows you, and my dad knows you're a piece of shit.
Well, and the funniest thing is like when I was kind of, because when you're in high school, you think you're kind of untouchable when you're young, and I'm over here running my mouth, and I had to pay some consequences. Like I had some things that happened to me that I really don't think were random. Like I was kind of set up, and it just goes to show how like how people when they're in a position of power, even if it's the truth, like you know what I mean? Like I said, not my monkey, not my zoo. I wish I would have known that then, because like I'm in this point in my life because you can't control what other people do, but honesty is like a huge thing, and just to be such a fucking pathetic liar and then have other people support your fucking lies too. It's just, and then to manipulate other people for saying the truth, man. It's a lot to swallow, and I'm just glad that I'm able to move on from that damage, if that makes sense.
This is the truth about white privilege. I mean, they get the benefit of the doubt every time, and for some reason,
hands down, dude, white male, Caucasian, I know that.
Vice president and vice principal was just like, I'm gonna let this slide until I guess somebody really makes a lawsuit or brings us up to the press or something. Like, I don't know what he was thinking.
And it's not fair, it shouldn't be like that. But it's sad how like
it's how they say it is like it's the boys that are privileged having that kind of conversation. Yeah. So the bigger thing, I didn't even cover this in our first interview. The bands that inspire you, the bands that you're listening to today, and bands that you want to shout out.
So bands that inspire me, I really like MGMT, Neon Indian. Those have always been big inspirational bands for me because I feel like I have a sound that's like that. I've already mentioned Pink Floyd. Oh yeah. Bands that I to I'm actually pretty simple because I like Motown so much. Like I'm into the classics. I always go over like um I said Otis Redding, Bill Withers. Those are like two of my top bands that I'm always into. But there's a newer artist that's a rap artist that I think is changing just like music as we know, and it's like Juke or something. JVKE is his name. I don't know. I don't know how you say it. How do you pronounce dude's name? Dude, I mean, he's a phenomenal. He's more of a rapper, but dude, like his music I don't know if he's hiring people making the beats for him, more likely, but dude, the music he comes out with, I mean, they're bangers every time. He's got
Yeah.
one
Okay.
called like
So hold on.
Hour right now. Love that
How do you
piano intro.
feel? How do you feel about like the bands that use other people's beats and sounds, but they write lyrics to and put that out there, and they're known for that track?
I think it's kind of back to the question we were talking about earlier, where uh, not getting the credibility, like the Jonas Brother thing. I think it's kind of I I don't want to say bullshit because like look, right now I don't know if I want a title or if I want to be known for music. I'm kind of like more of a like I don't want to say closet musician, but I'm not afraid of becoming, like a titled artist or anything like that. I just don't know if I want the publicity behind it. Um, so like by me stating that, I could give all the music that I make. I could record it, give it to you. Say you blow up, you make millions off of it. I could give two shits about any of the money you make off of it if I get a penny of it. And if you got big off of it, I think it's just cool the fact that you were able to, use my piano in a song and create that. So it's kind of like I'm on both sides, I guess. I think it's bullshit, but then I also could give two shits.
This is really like something I think kind of goes with like what I've been doing with the Smith Math crew or Fred and like what his band has been up to. As far as like just getting together, jam, record, and then like what that recording is, like what that shapes up to be. If that becomes anything, then like I'm just kind of like glad that got put out there.
Yeah.
And also, I feel like even when it comes to kind of working with independent, kind of like record labels and artists and stuff, it's like you're trying to find, no matter what, like the people that fit with you, fit with your sound, fit with your vibe, and also like you feel comfortable with like that being out there. With that stuff because like the other artists on there are also like stuff you would like or listen to and also
Hmm.
would shout out or hey, if you don't listen to new music, then there's that artist and stuff like that, you
Amen.
know.
Amen. Yeah, for sure, dude.
Um, I guess a really big one I want to get back into the movies and stuff that influence you. I know you said Finding Nemo. Any kind of other like directors or kind of like movies and stuff that like you've seen recently where you're like that was worth a shout out.
Who's the one that made Young Frankenstein and like the Holy Grail? He's Steven Spielberg. I think that's his name, right?
Yeah, and Monty Python people, right?
Yeah, yeah. So like I grew up with my grandparents and they always had like just old movies on. And I never understood the comedy when I was younger. Like I remember the one scene where Moses, he comes out of the cave, right? And he's like, he's holding like stone commandments. He's like, I hear have the 15 commandments. And he drops one on the ground and it breaks. And he goes, I hear have the 10 commandments. And like, dude, that's like, that right there is pure comedy. Anybody who is an adult would just like get that. But back in the day, like you couldn't say the stuff that you can say now, and it's hard to make comedy when you're not being kind of belligerent or using profanity.
Well,
And that,
yeah, I want to bring up like with the South Park episode, they use Kanye as the example of being Cupid Yee, of like, oh, I'm this Yee that's spreading around like this, like, Hollywood is ran by Jews, and like, Hitler wasn't really a bad guy, but they're like hot take bad jokes. And
Hmm.
at the same time, it's like, yeah, everybody like knows these characters or like familiar like with this realm, and they're still kind of like, wow, the show's not canceled because X, Y, and Z. They're still joking about like Jews. They're still joking about like that's gay. They're still joking about like Kanye. You know what I mean? Being like
Yeah.
off the wall recently. And they're like, you need to take your meds, and you won't be like, oh, like white people and black people and like Christianity. I just want to be a good Christian and stuff like that. And I think like that kind of ties in with like the culture we're in. We're trying to find out like, am I going too far? Is this pushing it too much? But at the same time,
Well, I
if I'm
mean,
if
with
I'm
the
pushing it
internet,
just to if I'm just to the edge, then that means
yeah.
everything's good, too.
Yeah, and I think everyone is kind of like confused right now. I mean, the pandemic just happened, well, possibly UFOs are getting shot down, whatever. And with the internet, because everyone is capable of knowing things, and like having that information to, the whole world. I think it's kind of like the way the satire shows have predicted it. It's kind of it's a weird feeling for everyone now, but I think because of knowledge and being able to have that knowledge, um, things are going to get better to a point where, like, you can't even say gay in Florida, or you can't even learn about, any Black history
Or
in
or
AP
if
classes.
it's said, it's actually like more familiarized, where it's like okay, like it's acceptable and humorous. But I
Yeah.
also see that there's probably never going to be any humor in everybody saying nigga. So
Hmm.
I get the whole thing in my own
Well,
thing because
back
I
to the
am
white
actually
supremacy thing, it's
black or
just like,
mixed.
well, I love how Florida, they're not trying to learn about African American history, and it's so funny if
Yeah.
you read about it. Most of the text that they start teaching is from the 1970s and on. You
and
don't hear about
and the
anything
majority of
before.
them out there are either mixed race, two races, or we have our Latino, and then we have our very rich class,
Oh yeah,
and the middle class trying to work up to it. Whatever.
I mean, it's just kind of like South Park and the placement of just contradiction of using, like, let's say they Jews are controlling Hollywood or whatever, but, like, if you get down to, like, I guess biblical times, the beginning of humanity, the Hebrew Israelites, right? Like, if you study that location, they are more than likely African Americans, and it's just like to understand how the world just kind of
And this
contradicted
whole
that.
thing, they're trying to also show that like because Tolkien is like the friend of Stan, who is a Jew, that he should be the better friend and understanding and stuff. And I just think that like that dynamic is so true because even if you're gay and you're not gay, you should be more understanding about like somebody else that's not gay saying this or that. And that's just kind of like I feel like we're in the midst, or we have been in this invisible war of identity politics. And here we go. We lost them. All right. So we're just gonna finish it up right now. I was saying we're in the midst of identity politics, and in the idea of that, everybody is trying to search like, and this whole thing. What really makes me bring this up is like I can remember being younger and not like thinking oh, I have this problem, I got this problem. It was just like, but now we're in this world of like, okay, I have anxiety, I have depression, and like we're trying to kind of like identity or identify ourselves like under these
Be open to it.
categories.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, and like with sexuality or mental health, whatever you want to like label it as, to be able to admit that those things are real, and to see how it changes, because you don't just talk about the birds and the birds and the bees. You talk about the birds and the bees, the birds and the birds, the bees and the bees without stingers that think they're birds. Like it's kind of complicated, but it's as long as you're happy and you're living a healthier, better self for yourself. I think that's important. So I'm glad that we're kind of all moving toward what's real, and it's not just you're crazy, or you're just sick. It's actually like there's things that people feel that need to be identified, and for them to be comfortable, they need to be able to talk about it. And if you can't talk about how you feel, I mean, how are you going to ever feel comfortable in your own skin?
Yeah, that's another good point because I feel like in today's music, it's so heavily against like the categorizing of what subgenre you're in. Are you mixing genres? Are you just rap? Are you just this? And to me, it has kind of become like more of like a PR thing because we're not necessarily worried about like what the actual record is saying, what these artists are putting out there. It's like, oh, this is that kind of genre. Then like I'm gonna kind of run through the basics of like what that genre maybe wants you to cover or show. And like a big thing I want to say like in that realm, and showing wise is like, oh, you're a rap artist. We want you to show like you're single or you have a lot of money or you're messing with a lot
Yeah,
of girls
yeah.
or you know what I mean, like
Like
you're
the
like
dark twisted fantasy thing. When I was researching it, I had to do a lot of the lyric research, and I realized like basically, even though Kanye made a banger album, it was all about that. It was about him having the Lamborghini driving down the lane. I mean, yeah, he's kind of rebirthed himself, but he still talks a lot about flexing and stuff like that. And it's just I think people are going to find more nicks or clicks, niches. That's the word I'm trying to think of. I think. Anyways, with the genres too, like the way you're talking about, like there's going to be so many more genres that are going to keep coming out because people are starting to find out what they truly like, and it's not looked at as like, what the hell does this guy listen to? Oh man, he's one of those. It's just like, okay, that's what he's into. That's what he's doing. You know what I mean?
I definitely think that's one of those future things. Like in this last interview I've done was talking about how like in the Doors, Jim Morrison was trying to really or was asked about his predictions on the future of music, and he was like, probably people are going to be recording themselves like on tapes and like able to use like those tape recordings and like incorporate their voice and like have like a whole different kind of realm of music. And now it's like, yeah, like what do you think is the next big thing? It's about like the less construct that we get in music because today it's like in the like I remember like in the past like whenever like an indie artist put out a record, oh, that was just for lesbians, but now like it's like accepted for anybody. Like, oh, you're feeling sad or whatever, like listen to that guy. Oh, you know what I mean. There's just like some bands where I even feel like today, like dubstep kind of gets its own rep on being bad music, or if you're into dubstep, it's like other music is bad. Dubstep today, you know what I mean, is trying to incorporate the different vibes of like these
Yeah.
other artists that are like, oh, they really recorded this beat, they really recorded this sample, you know what I mean, and put themselves
Like
in their work.
screamo. So like when I was younger, I thought screamo was just like just people screaming into a microphone. Like that's not music. That's just noise. And then I started getting into like some of the bands like Slipknot and
Yeah.
realizing like how intricate their music is. So intricate. Like the musicianship that these people have in these bands
Yeah, and I get the whole thing with playlists is that like not everybody is kind of like seeking out like that kind of deprivize like deprivation, that kind of psychedelic like mind expansion kind of stuff. And I feel like that's like a little bit why like we're trying to like give the best of both worlds and this whole like listening experience.
Oh yeah.
All right, so before we go, you kind of have to list off some songs and bands that you would like to play after this interview.
Oh goodness gracious. Play Knowledge with an X. Play a couple of his bangers. Throw an Anderson Paak song in there. Um, um, throw the KC and the Sunshine Band in there. A couple of those.
Hell yeah.
Goodness, what's another way to end it off? And end it off with Through the Fire and Flames.
That's a solid track.
Well, hey, it was a pleasure talking to you.
Hey, thank you for joining Vibe Osmosis, Hurff, and thank you for taking the time out. I plan on sharing our music and stuff that I haven't even shared with you. I've been editing and working on the stuff that we got to record together, and I plan on sharing it for this one.
Well, hey, I'm excited to hear it, man, and hope you have a great day. It was a pleasure being on the show.
All right, yep, we'll keep in touch. And we have a show coming up on March 11th, y'all. And Hurff, you better be making it to it.